must take from you in order to feel whole, then their love is not love but a need. And neediness, when mistaken for connection, becomes a silent thief of your spirit. So many women fall into this subtle but deeply dangerous pattern, confusing being needed with being loved. When someone persistently asks you for what they should be generating within themselves, your time, your peace, your emotional labor, it may look like intimacy, but often it is dependency disguised as devotion. And here lies the problem. If you're not aware, you will interpret their demands as validation. You will think, they need me, so I matter. But what you don't see is this. Each time you give what they are meant to cultivate within themselves, you train yourself to abandon yourself. This is not connection. This is codependence. This is not love. This is leakage. So today, we will gently and clearly walk through 5 common things people ask of women, not out of love, but out of their own internal disorder. So you can see with calm eyes, protect your energy, and honor your higher self. This is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming clear. When we speak of love, most of us imagine warmth, presence, and acceptance. But few speak about space. And yet, space is what tests love the most, because it reveals whether a person seeks to connect with you or consume you. There is a subtle danger that often goes unnoticed, especially by women who are sensitive, nurturing, and deeply relational. And that danger begins when someone insists on your constant availability, not as a gesture of togetherness, but as a demand cloaked in emotional pressure. They say, "Why didn't you answer my call?" They say, "You used to reply instantly. What's going on?" They say, "Are you hiding something from me?" At first, these statements seem like signs of affection. They miss me. You think, they care about me. But pause for a moment and look deeper. Is it care, or is it control? A person who needs your constant presence is often a person who hasn't cultivated their own inner stillness. Their dependence on your response becomes their method to manage their own insecurity. The danger is not always in the words spoken, but in what your nervous system is constantly being asked to carry. When someone needs you to be on call emotionally, mentally, physically, they are not really asking for closeness. They are asking for a fix. And once you become the fix, you are no longer free to be yourself. In relationships, we often mistake urgency for intimacy. A person messages you multiple times in a row, leaves voice notes, shows up unannounced, and we tell ourselves, that must be love. They're invested. But what if their urgency is actually a reflection of their inability to sit with their own emotional discomfort? A secure and emotionally mature person respects time, space, and silence. They do not fill every pause with panic. They do not take your moments of solitude as rejection. They understand that presence, when forced, becomes a performance, not a connection. Neuroscience teaches us that our nervous system is attuned to patterns of safety and danger. When you are always expected to be available, your nervous system enters a state of hypervigilance. You begin to anticipate their needs even before they speak. You apologize for taking a nap. You feel guilty for going for a walk without your phone. Your mind is no longer your own. It becomes wired to serve another person's emotional regulation. Over time, this drains you. Your joy starts to fade. You no longer know what you feel, only what they feel. And in that slow erosion, you lose yourself. There's a short story I once heard. A woman was dating a man who loved her deeply. Or so he said. He would call her 10 times a day. He wanted to know where she was, what she was doing, whom she was talking to. In the beginning, she felt special, chosen. But one day, as she was walking through the park alone, enjoying the quiet, he called again and again and again. By the seventh missed call, she felt dread, not because she had done anything wrong, but because she knew he would be upset. And she thought to herself, why does love feel like a leash? Real love does not chase you down. It waits, it trusts your return, it honors your rhythm. In Eastern philosophy, there is a deep reverence for the Wu Wei, the principle of non-forcing. Even in relationships, we are called to observe the natural flow of connection. Love is like water. If held gently, it nourishes. But if you try to trap it, it slips away or stagnates. When a person demands constant availability, they are no longer flowing with you. They are trying to dam the river of your life, but you were not made to be captured. You were made to connect with choice, not compulsion. So ask yourself in the quiet of your day, does this relationship give me space to breathe? Can I be away and still be respected? Can I rest without having to explain? If the answer is no, then what you are being asked for is not love, it is ownership. And ownership is not intimacy, it is captivity. Let us now turn to something even more insidious, yet harder to detect. The moment someone begins to ask you to silence your intuition, this rarely happens in explicit words. No one says, stop trusting yourself. Instead, they say things like, you're overthinking. Don't be so sensitive. Why do you always assume the worst? You're just being emotional. At first, these may seem like innocent comments, but with repetition, they begin to achieve one aim: to make you doubt your own internal compass. A woman's intuition is one of her deepest gifts. It is not superstition, it is biointelligence, a union of subconscious cues, lived experience, emotional memory, and subtle energetic reading. Modern neuroscience confirms that much of our brain's decision-making occurs below the surface of conscious thought. This is not mysticism, it is embodied wisdom. When your body tenses around someone's words, pay attention. When your heart beats faster for no reason in someone's presence, don't ignore it. These are not irrational reactions. These are survival signals that precede language. But what happens when someone persistently encourages you to ignore those signals? Slowly, you begin to override them. You say, maybe I'm just being paranoid. And each time you do that, you train yourself to betray yourself. There's a quiet kind of danger here. When a person teaches you to mistrust your own inner truth, they position themselves as the new authority over your reality. This is not love. This is a form of spiritual colonization, where your inner land is no longer yours to walk. In psychology, this is known as gaslighting. It is the slow erosion of your self-trust, achieved through the denial of your perceptions, the dismissal of your emotions, and the distortion of your memory. Let me offer a simple metaphor. Imagine your intuition as a loyal dog who lives with you. Every time a stranger comes to the door, the dog barks. It doesn't always know why, but it senses something. Now, imagine someone new comes into your life and says, "Why is your dog barking all the time? It's annoying. Can't you just train it to be quiet?" And so, to make this person comfortable, you punish your dog. You scold it. You isolate it. You teach it to suppress its voice. Eventually, it stops barking altogether. But one day, someone dangerous really does enter your home, and the dog stays silent because you taught it not to protect you. This is what happens when you ignore your intuition to make someone else comfortable. You disable your inner guardian. And when harm comes, you no longer feel it until it's too late. I once met a woman during a silent retreat. She shared something quietly with tears in her eyes. She said, "I used to know when someone wasn't safe, I could feel it in my gut. But after years of being told I was too emotional, I stopped listening. I stayed in places I should have left. I said yes when my whole body screamed no. And now I am trying to remember how to hear myself again. These are the invisible wounds so many carry. The betrayal not by others, but the betrayal of self that comes from trying to keep peace with people who are not peaceful themselves. So remember this, a person who truly loves you will never ask you to mute your inner voice. They will respect your inside, even if it challenges them. They will listen to your discomfort, even if it reveals their blind spots. They will invite your truth, even when it's inconvenient, because they know your self-trust is not a threat to the relationship. It is the foundation of it. And more importantly, they know when a woman is attuned to her intuition, she is not only wise, she is powerful. So let us begin again from this place of clarity. Do not apologize for needing space. Do not silence your instincts to keep harmony. Do not shrink your presence to accommodate someone's disorder. You are not here to be emotionally enslaved by those who cannot sit with themselves. You are here to rise, anchored in your knowing, peaceful in your solitude, generous with your love, but only when it is safe to give, and when it is not. You are here to walk away, not with anger, but with alignment, because no connection, no matter how passionate, is worth the price of your peace. When we speak of giving, we speak of love, of service, of presence, and indeed, a loving woman is naturally giving. She gives her time, her energy, her patience, her care. In a deeply spiritual sense, she becomes a vessel of nurturing, soft in her speech, generous in her attention, and healing in her presence. But here is where a profound spiritual misalignment often enters. What happens when you are giving, but the other is only taking? What happens when your giving becomes expected, assumed, demanded, while your needs are dismissed, overlooked, or even shamed? There is a difference between being loved and being used, and many women only realize the difference after their emotional energy has been emptied out, drop by drop, day after day, into someone else's unfillable cup. In a healthy relationship, giving is reciprocal. Not always in the same form, not always at the same time, but always with balance. There is a flow, a rhythm, between effort and rest, expression and silence, doing and receiving. This is not simply about fairness. It is about spiritual symmetry. What you nourish must also nourish you in return, or else you become spiritually malnourished. But there are those who do not seek symmetry. They seek supply. And supply, unlike love, does not honor your boundaries. It requires that you be constantly available, emotionally generous, and forgiving, without limits. It views you not as a sovereign being, but as a resource. They don't ask how you feel. They ask what you can do. They don't notice your silence. They only react when their needs are unmet. They don't thank you for your consistency. They resent you when you pause to breathe. These are the ones who will ask you, sometimes gently, sometimes manipulatively, to keep giving even when you are exhausted, to keep showing up even when you are breaking inside, to stay calm even when they are careless with your heart. And because many women are conditioned through culture, religion, or upbringing to associate love with sacrifice, they comply. They give more, they endure longer, they love harder, and they believe that eventually their devotion will be reciprocated. But the truth is this: people who are using you do not eventually wake up and love you better. They wake up and take more. In relationships where giving is one-sided, what dies first is not the body, it is the soul. The woman stops smiling with her eyes. She laughs without joy. She listens without presence. She becomes a version of herself that exists only to support someone else's emotional survival. There is a short story told in a Zen teaching. A woman tended a tree in her courtyard every day. She watered it, pruned it, cared for it deeply. But the tree bore no fruit. One day, an elder monk passed by and saw her kneeling by the tree once again. He asked, "Why do you give so much to this tree?" She replied, "Because I believe in it." He paused, then said softly, "Belief is not enough if the tree is dead." Many of us have relationships like this, where we keep giving because we remember who the person was or who we hoped they would become. But the reality of their behavior, the emptiness of their response, tells another story. Emotional generosity must be met with responsibility. Otherwise, what appears to be love becomes self-betrayal. Modern psychology confirms this. In co-dependent dynamics, one person overfunctions while the other underfunctions. The giver becomes the caretaker, the therapist, the emotional anchor. But the taker grows more passive, more entitled, and increasingly unable to meet even basic relational needs. This imbalance doesn't just exhaust the body, it rewires the brain. Studies on emotional labor show that people in high demand, low reward relationships suffer greater cognitive fatigue, higher cortisol levels, and lower immune function. Your body begins to interpret love as a threat. Your brain no longer associates affection with safety. This is not love. This is trauma bonding. And yet, because the cost is invisible, because there are no bruises, no raised voices, no visible damage, many women stay. They stay in relationships where they are expected to give without receiving, to understand without being understood, to heal without being held. But here is what we must remember. The body keeps the score. Your nervous system will not lie for the sake of a fantasy. If being with someone drains you more than it uplifts you, that is your wisdom speaking. A woman once said to me, "I don't understand. I do everything for him. I support his dreams. I carry his burdens. I love him through everything. Why does he seem more distant with time?" I looked at her gently and replied, "Because he never learned to see you as a person, only as a provider. To be loved for your giving without being loved for your being is to become invisible. And invisibility, over time, leads to despair. Because even if someone praises you, thanks you, acknowledges you, if they do not consider your needs, your emotions, your spirit, then you are not in a relationship. You are in a transaction. Eastern wisdom teaches us about the principle of yin and yang, the sacred dance of reciprocity. Giving and receiving are not separate forces, they are part of the same whole. If you are always giving, you are suppressing the yin within you, the capacity to receive, to be filled, to rest. And when that balance is broken, your inner harmony dissolves. There is a beautiful truth in nature. Rivers give water to the earth, but the sky must also give rain to the river. If either stops, the system collapses. You must ask yourself, is there rain in this relationship? Or are you being drained to feed a land that refuses to return the gift? It is not selfish to want reciprocity. It is not demanding to ask for consideration. These are the foundations of healthy connection. Without them, your love becomes a tool used against you, because what you give is no longer received with reverence. It is consumed with expectation. There is another story I recall, this time from a woman in her late 60s. She spent over 30 years in a marriage where her emotional labor held the entire family together. She was the one who woke first, slept last. She remembered birthdays, comforted tears, held the silent burdens no one ever saw. And yet, when she grew ill, her husband could not even make her a bowl of soup. She told me, I gave my whole life so no one would suffer. But now that I'm weak, I see. I was never truly seen. This is the cost of giving without receiving. You do not become cherished. You become expected. And when your giving is expected, it is no longer a gift. It becomes your prison. So how do you protect yourself from this imbalance? First, you must become deeply aware of your own patterns. Do you equate your worth with your usefulness? Do you feel anxious when you are not helping someone? Do you believe that if you stop giving, you will stop being loved? These beliefs are not facts. They are wounds. And wounds, when unhealed, become blueprints for your relationships. Second, observe the response of others when you set boundaries. Say no once and watch. Does the person guilt you? Does their energy shift? Do they withdraw affection? Or do they honor your limit and thank you for being honest? A person's reaction to your boundaries reveals their intentions more clearly than their words ever could. Lastly, understand that your energy is sacred. You are not here to pour endlessly into people who refuse to be whole. You are here to grow in mutuality, in respect, in emotional presence. Anything less is not love. It is depletion. To the woman who gives everything and asks for little, it is time to return to yourself. You were not born to be a reservoir for other people's needs. You were born to dance in the sunlight of your own soul, to share your love freely, but only with those who can hold it with honor. A man who loves you will not only receive your giving, he will give in return, not out of obligation, but out of reverence, not because he needs to earn your love, but because he recognizes it as a sacred offering, not a service. You are not here to rescue people from their own growth. You are not responsible for their healing. You are responsible for your alignment, and sometimes that means walking away from those who treat your generosity as their entitlement. When you give from fullness, it nourishes both. When you give from emptiness, it slowly erodes you. Let your giving be conscious. Let your boundaries be clear. Let your self-worth be rooted in who you are, not in how much you do for others. There are questions that reveal more than answers ever could, and one such question, often asked with subtle tones or quiet implications, is this: if you really love me, you would prove it by choosing me over them. It sounds innocent on the surface. It may even appear romantic, an appeal to loyalty, to exclusivity, to the sacredness of a bond. But if you listen with presence and awareness, you will hear the deeper current beneath the words. It is not a request for love. It is a demand for control. When someone asks you to choose them over your family, your friends, your mentors, your community, pause, because in that moment, they are not asking to be loved. They are asking to be worshipped. True love never forces isolation. It encourages integration. A person who loves you will want you to flourish in every space: your home, your friendships, your creative life, your spiritual walk. They will support the connections that shaped you, not seek to erase them. But not everyone operates from love. Some operate from fear, from insecurity, from the need to dominate, not to connect. And these people, whether through subtle persuasion or overt pressure, will begin to sever you from the relationships that remind you of who you are without them. They will say things like, "I just don't feel comfortable when you talk to your mother. Your friends don't understand us. Why do you need to talk to other people about our problems? I should be enough for you." And slowly, so slowly you might not notice it, you begin to retreat. You stop sharing. You cancel plans. You pull away from the people who love you deeply, consistently, and without agenda. At first, it feels like sacrifice, a small trade for the sake of peace. a gesture of love to show commitment. But with time, it becomes loneliness, then confusion, then disconnection from others, and eventually from yourself. This form of relational control is not always loud. It doesn't always come with raised voices or slammed doors. Sometimes it comes with quiet guilt, with subtle questions, with the unspoken tension of having to choose between harmony with your partner and loyalty to your loved ones. But any relationship that asks you to abandon your community is not love. It is emotional possession. Psychologically, this is known as isolation grooming. It's a tactic often used by emotionally manipulative individuals, particularly narcissists, to gain psychological dominance over a partner. The less connected you are to others, the more dependent you become on the person in front of you. It is not about love, it is about power. In Eastern philosophy, the concept of right relationship is fundamental. It means harmony in your relationships is not just about peace with one person. It is about balance across the circles of your life. You are not meant to pour all your energy into one connection. You are meant to be part of a greater whole. A tree does not grow by detaching from its roots, and neither do you. But what makes this tactic so dangerous is that it often wears the costume of devotion. A man may say, "I just want us to be close. I want to protect what we have." And that sounds noble, doesn't it? But true closeness does not require isolation. Real protection never asks you to lose yourself. A woman once shared with me her story. She had been with a man who, over time, discouraged her from calling her sister, criticized her for spending time with childhood friends, and became irritated anytime she spoke warmly about her father. At first, she believed it was because he had been hurt before, because he needed reassurance. She poured herself into comforting him, into proving her love. But years later, she woke up in a home that felt like a cave. No laughter, no visits, no support. Just her and him. And the terrifying part, she no longer knew how to reach out, because emotional isolation over time becomes internalized. You begin to believe you are a burden, that asking for support is betrayal, that if you miss your family, it means you are ungrateful, that if you maintain friendships, it means you don't truly care for your partner. But this is not love. This is emotional colonization. You were not created to orbit someone else's insecurities. You were created to live from your center, with roots that connect you to your community, your wisdom, your higher purpose. In Buddhism, one of the key principles is interdependence. Nothing arises alone. Everything is connected, and a healthy relationship honors this reality. It understands that we are healthiest when we are relationally diverse, when we are not emotionally enslaved to one person, but supported by a web of meaningful connections. Modern neuroscience backs this up. Studies on social resilience show that people who maintain strong social ties outside their romantic relationship are more emotionally balanced, recover faster from stress, and have greater clarity in times of conflict. Why? Because they are not emotionally hostage to one person. They are grounded, connected, whole, and this wholeness protects them. Because when a woman is whole, she cannot be controlled, and that is what some people fear. Not losing your love, but losing their power over your selfhood. So, what do you do when someone asks you to choose? You return to your center. Ask yourself, is this request coming from love or fear? From trust or control? From sacred intimacy or emotional manipulation? A partner who asks you to forsake the people who shaped you does not understand the depth of your soul. Because your soul is not singular, it is collective. Your laughter was shaped by family stories, your strength by mentors, your joy by friendships, your wisdom by those who walked with you during storms. To abandon them is to abandon yourself. There's a Japanese saying, a single arrow is easily broken, but not 10 in a bundle. This is true of people too. When you are connected to your tribe, your spiritual, emotional, and familial tribe, you become resilient. You cannot be easily broken. You cannot be isolated and bent to another's will. I remember another story, this time of a woman in her 40s who had been in a long-term relationship with a man who constantly criticized her best friend. He would say, "She's jealous of us. She doesn't want to see you happy." Eventually, under pressure, the woman distanced herself from her friend. Years later, after the relationship ended, she reconnected with this friend and cried. Because in her friend's voice, she heard the truth. In her embrace, she felt the safety she had been missing, the tragedy. She had walked alone for years, all because someone made her believe that love meant disconnection. But real love never asks for disconnection. It asks for integration. It welcomes your world. It respects your origins. It celebrates the people who make you stronger. And if someone cannot love the people you love, then they do not truly see you. Because we are not separate from our communities. We are extensions of them. And any man who wants to love you must also honor the roots that nourish your soul. Emotional isolation is a form of psychological confinement. And confinement shrinks your spirit. It dims your light. It makes you easier to manipulate. But the truth is, your light was never meant to be contained. It was meant to shine in many directions. In family gatherings, in deep conversations with old friends, in silent evenings with mentors, in joyful moments with your tribe. You do not need to choose between love and connection. The right love will support your connections. It will not compete with them. In Taoist philosophy, water is often used as the metaphor for wisdom. It flows around obstacles. It nourishes every space it enters. It adapts, but it never loses its essence. Be like water. Flow back to those who have fed your spirit. Flow into relationships that feel like rivers, not cages. Flow away from the rocks that block your path with fear and demand. And when someone asks you to prove your love by disconnecting from others, remember, your love does not need to be proven. It needs to be honored. And anyone who asks you to walk alone has already shown you that they are not walking with you. The greatest gift you can give to someone is your wholeness, not your sacrifice, not your isolation, your wholeness. Because it is only from a place of inner fullness that real, lasting, sacred connection can begin. There is a subtle but profound difference between love that grows and love that grips. One nourishes your spirit, the other drains it. One offers room for movement, space for reflection, and freedom for inner growth. The other binds you not with chains, but with expectations that constrict your soul. And perhaps one of the most dangerous expectations is this: if you love me, you will give me access to everything. It may seem harmless at first. A request to know your phone password, to monitor your daily schedule, to be copied on every plan you make. It appears to be a modern expression of closeness, of full transparency, of nothing to hide. But stillness reveals what rushing conceals. And if you pause long enough, you begin to hear the underlying message. Your boundaries are inconvenient to me. Your privacy makes me uncomfortable. Your inner world should be mine to control. What makes